Daniel Boone here. It is our last day together and I'm so sad. But I'm excited I got this extra day with you because I hear it's your spirit day and you get to wear blue today. So Miss Darcy loaned me her blue shirt. And how does it look on me? Does it look good? Thank you very much. So since it's our last day together, let's review our map of the United States. Remember, this is our map of the United States of America, which is located on the continent of North America. Now, this orange part, that's what the United States consisted of before this Louisiana Purchase. And the Louisiana Purchase is when Thomas Jefferson went to Emperor Napoleon and wanted to buy New Orleans. And Emperor Napoleon was like, how about you buy all of this that the French own? That way I can have the money for my war that I'm fighting over here in France, right? So then the United States went from the orange to the orange and the green, which doubled their land, didn't it? Well, then Jefferson thought, well, I don't know what's over there. I want to explore over there. But I'm the president of the United States of America, so I can't go way over there. I'm going to get Lewis and Clark to do it for me. So Lewis and Clark formed the Corps of Discovery and went on a big adventure. They went up the Missouri River and they crossed the Rocky Mountains, and we've learned all about their adventures and some plants and animals that they came across, a lot of the Native American tribes. They had Sacagawea with them to help them. I don't know if they could have made it without Sacagawea. And today we're going to find out if they made it to the Pacific Ocean or not. Are we ready? Here we go. The closer Meriwether Lewis, William Clark, Sacagawea, and their friends came to the Pacific, the more Native American people they met. This land was home to many Native Americans who had lived there in settled communities for a long, long time. So communities are groups of people who live together in the same place. Kind of like how Longmont, Colorado is our community. We all live together in this city of Longmont, Colorado, right? With the help of the Shoshones and the Nez Perce, the Corps of Discovery crossed the Rocky Mountains, which stood between them and the Pacific Ocean. A new, powerful river began in these mountains. The captains hoped to ride it downhill to the ocean, but the Nez Perce warned in some places, this river rushes through narrow rock canyons, moving so quickly and powerfully that it is difficult to control a boat there. Now, a canyon is a steep valley. So steep is like if you're going down a steep ski hill, you got to be a really good skier. It goes, I go down some steep ski hills sometimes, but sometimes I go and I fall down the mountain. Almost all the time I fall, but it happens. Anyway, if it's steep, it has a really big, like, you wouldn't want to ride your bike down there, right? And a valley is like a big dip. You know, we have high mountains and then we have low dipping valleys. You could be hurt if your boats hit the canyon walls or the sharp rocks sticking out of the water. William Clark and the group's best canoeists climbed the rocks to look down at this part of the river. They heard the roar of the water charging through the narrow canyon even before they saw it. Walking atop the rock rim high above, Clark asked the canoeist, "What do you think?" "Captain," the canoeist answered, "I expect to play my violin at our next campsite downriver, after we all get safely through this canyon." Clark grinned. "That's what I wanted to hear. Let us find the others." In other words, he was saying, we'll be fine. I'm going to play my violin when we get through this. It's like a glare on there. I'm sorry. There we go. The men pushed off from the shore, and the pirogues and canoes plunged into the rapids. The mighty current pushed and pulled the boats, but working together, the men steered around rocks and away from the canyon walls, keeping their balance whenever the river threatened to tip over the boats. Finally, they shot out the other end of the rocky canyon and into calm waters. John Shields turned to his young friend, George Shannon. "What do you think, George?" Shannon answered, "I was just starting to enjoy myself. Do you think they have any more of those around here?" Then both men laughed. So they had fun, didn't they? They're like, woohoo, that was fun. Kind of like whitewater rafting, right? They were some of the first whitewater rafters. Soon afterward, the men landed on an island in the middle of the river, just short of the place where the river emptied into the ocean. There, with the help of neighboring Native Americans, they survived another long, cold, rainy winter. At last, the weather cleared, and they were able to travel the rest of the way to the Pacific Ocean. It's a good thing they had so many Native American friends. It seems like the Native Americans were really friendly back then when these people were coming over to explore. There before them was the sight they had dreamed of seeing, the Pacific Ocean. Yes, they made it. Some of the men cheered, others stood in silent contentment. So contentment means that they stood happily and quietly. Remember that contentment is one of our vocab words, content. If you're content, you're just happy, and you're just content. You're like, oh, this is just so wonderful. I'm just so happy and joyful. Where was I? Sacagawea was amazed. She had never seen an ocean or even a picture of one. Clark heard that a whale had washed up on a nearby beach and took Sacagawea to see it. She told him, I have traveled a long way with you to see the great waters, and now I have seen this monstrous whale as well. I am so happy to see the ocean. Then she walked along the sand, happily letting the waves wash over her feet. That must have been amazing. Can you remember the first time you saw the ocean? Or have you seen the ocean? If you haven't, I want you to tell me how you feel when you see the ocean for the first time whenever you see it. Ooh, another glare. That light, man. On March 23rd, near 1806, nearly 2 years after first leaving St. Louis, the Corps of Discovery turned to head for home. They had mapped a great deal of the Louisiana Territory and beyond, from the Mississippi River to the Pacific. They now knew how to get to the Pacific. They could take the Missouri River to the Rockies, cross the Rockies on foot, and then take other rivers to the Pacific Ocean. They had made friends with many Native Americans. They found out that no single river ran all the way from the Mississippi to the Pacific. They had learned about many animals, birds, fish, and insects. They had more adventures on the journey home, of course, but in the end, everyone got back safely except for a few who chose not to go back. John Coulter, the man from whom the Teton Sioux had taken a horse, told Meriwether Lewis, Captain, I have had enough of cities and crowds. I will stay in the West if you will let me. So Coulter went to live among the Mandan people, promising, I'll be here when you come back. And more than one of his friends did go back later to visit him. Sacagawea and her husband, how do you say this again? Toussaint Charbonneau, with their little son that everyone called Pompey, went home to the Shoshone. Lewis and Clark told Sacagawea, if it were not for you, we would never have succeeded. Sacagawea replied, you showed me the great waters. We are friends. We helped each other. Setting off again, Lewis and Clark watched Sacagawea, with her son in her arms, waving from the shore until a bend in the river blocked them from sight. I bet that was an emotional moment, a sad goodbye. Months later, the travelers reached home. There they said their goodbyes and went their various ways, some to more adventures and some to quieter lives. Perhaps you would like to know what happened to the 4 people who had been most responsible for the journey. Well, Meriwether Lewis became governor of the entire Louisiana Territory. William Clark became the governor of Missouri, then spent much of the rest of his life working with Native Americans on behalf of the government's newly created Bureau of Indian Affairs. Thomas Jefferson continued as president until 1809. 8 years later, James Monroe, who had arranged for Jefferson to buy the Louisiana Territory, was himself elected president of the United States of America. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. So that is the story of Lewis and Clark. In future grades, you will learn even more about their adventures because there is so much to tell. We couldn't tell it all in just a couple weeks because it took them 2 years just to get there. Imagine all the amazing adventures that they had. But for now, that will have to do. You are welcome to get books about it or watch videos about it. There's a lot of videos, especially about Sacagawea and Lewis and Clark's adventures exploring the West. So I hope you enjoyed learning about Lewis and Clark and the Louisiana Purchase and how the United States doubled in size thanks to Thomas Jefferson and his great idea. All right, if you pull out your core folder, there is one thing left in there, and now it should be empty, unless you've been keeping your other projects in there. You can use this folder for whatever you'd like. There is a timeline in here, and this is the timeline of Lewis and Clark's journey. So here we see that it starts in 1803, and it goes all the way 1804, 1805, 1806, and then another 1806. You are going to read these and match them up to what order they happened in. So the first thing I want you to do, I want you to try this on your own and match them up, and don't glue them yet. Then, after you pause me and try this, we're gonna do it together and see how you did, okay? So go ahead and pause me, go ahead and cut these out and put them where you think, put them in the order or the sequence that you think they happened. Pause. All right, here we go. First thing I do is always the same. I pick up my pencil or marker and write my name. Now, first I'm going to look for the first thing that I think happened. Let's read these together. Lewis and Clark leave St. Louis and begin their expedition with 40 other men. Well, that sounds like it might have happened first, but let me read the others. Lewis and Clark arrive at the Pacific Ocean in November. Well, that sounds like it probably happened towards the end. Thomas Jefferson buys the Louisiana Territory from France. Oh, that had to have happened before they left to explore. Lewis and Clark returned to St. Louis in September after their 2.5-year journey. Oh, that has to happen after they reach the Pacific Ocean. So let's switch that and let's see if this one fits in the middle. Sacagawea joins the expedition and works as an interpreter. Oh, wow, look at that. So I'm going to use tape because I think Lila or Max took my glue. So we have Thomas Jefferson buys the Louisiana Territory from France in 1803. Lewis and Clark leave St. Louis and begin their expedition with 40 other men. What was that called? It was called the Corps of Discovery. Sacagawea in 1804 joins the expedition and works as an interpreter. 1806, Lewis and Clark arrive at the Pacific Ocean in November. And then last, but not least, as they say, Lewis and Clark return to St. Louis in September after their 2.5-year journey, and that was in 1806. How did you do on yours? Looks awesome. Well, I do hope that you have enjoyed these lessons. I have definitely enjoyed them. And I just want to say that you guys all did such a great work on everything that you had in your folder. And I hope that next year when you're second graders and I come to next year's first graders to teach, maybe you can come visit the class so I can see you in person. Take care, little munchies, my little explorers. I'll talk to you later. Daniel Boone signing out.